What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Operation A5. Today we have an amazing episode with one of our closest friends. I hope it blesses you. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Operation A5. I'm here with the boys, and today is a special episode. We have officially our second guest. Yep. We have our brother Javier Hernandez here with us. He is, one of our, close friends from our church. Yeah. One of our board members. Recently inducted at the beginning of the year, which is dope. But before we, dive into this episode, I just want to say thank you so much to everybody for supporting us, for being patient with us. We thank you for supporting us through YouTube, through Instagram, through the reels and the likes and the shares. Thank you for supporting us through Spotify. We love you guys. We thank you so much for the support. But today's a really exciting episode, and, we pray that it blesses you guys. We pray that you, like, subscribe, and share. And it's going to be fun. So let's buckle up.
Yeah. Hey, so I know Javi as a brother, a guy that does ministry with, we do life with. I know everybody knows you as a barber as well. There's a lot of sides to Javi that we all know, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your story and just, why we love you so much. Maybe you can explain that to everybody else.
All right. So what's up, guys? Thank you guys for having me on. Yeah, it's a blessing, honestly. I love all you guys, and I love what you guys are doing. Obviously, just spreading the word and spreading the message, and it's amazing to be around the group of brothers, right?
Yeah.
And, just doing life together.
Yeah.
It's a blessing. You guys want me to go in the rabbit hole?
Let's do it.
Right away.
Wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I mean, like, if just to share my testimony, I guess, to just, you guys, feel free to jump in, ask any questions as you guys feel is right. I guess to start off, I want to say that I come from a good family.
Yeah.
I come from a loving family, good parents, good grandparents. I particularly nothing dramatic. Yeah. Nothing crazier than anybody else. I never had, I had pretty much everything I ever needed, and then some compared to a lot of people, So, we had a good house, a good upbringing. So I can't say I have like I had a, rough growing up, or I was a gangster, I was from the streets, right. Or I was, like this, crazy upbringing that a lot of testimonies that you hear out there, and which is they're powerful testimonies, but mine was, a little different in that sense that, I feel, and I think I say that first to say that, that shifted, right? Because nothing ever happened any worse, but I always found the worst in it. Okay. Even though I had a good upbringing, I always found a way to look at the worst in my good situation. Hindsight, obviously, is easy to see that, right? Sure. Yeah. But when I was younger, I would always find a way like to be, because they did this to me. My parents weren't, I always found the bad in the situation. I would never find the good. Right. I've obviously learned through faith and walking with Jesus that has changed my life and my perspective on life. Yeah. Right. To see something different now, right? And then I look back through my life and I'm like, wow, I was so blessed, growing up, but I failed to see it. I always looked at the worst parts. I always found the way to blame my parents. I always found the way to blame my family, my cousins, whoever, for supposed, anything I can find. Right. So yeah, man. So I say that to say that, fast forward from my upbringing. Well, and I'm also dyslexic. That's something some people know, not everybody knows. It's something that I've basically struggled with through my life. Being in dyslexia, it's basically a condition where you have trouble reading because you invert letters and numbers. So it gets complicated. It creates a lot of nerve issues because you get really nervous when you, like, for example, if I go to the doctor and I have to fill out papers, especially when I was younger, or becoming a teenager. They make you fill out these papers. I couldn't read the papers. Wow. So then, like at that time, I couldn't admit to someone, hey, can you read this? Because I'm dyslexic. I didn't know how to do that, right? Right. But of course, I've learned how to open up about that stuff. Yeah. you know, that always set me apart and put me in school, put me in special classes.
Yeah.
Which was like in a special wing with you know, the different kids, you know, like kids that were not the same as everybody else.
Right.
And then I played baseball, and so my friends from baseball were in another part of school.
Right.
And then they saw me coming out of the, you know, not so cool classroom, you know, where all the kids that had some type of disability,
Right.
you know, and they were like, but I thought you were normal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, and so that caused a lot of issues.
Do you think that's part of the reason why you felt some of that negativity towards everything else, or?
Not sure. No, I didn't feel.
Yeah.
I just, it built up. Honestly, it built up. Just if I felt different.
Okay.
I felt different. I never blamed anybody for
Sure.
it.
Okay.
I just felt different, and honestly, kudos to my parents. They did their very best to get me all the help possible, get me up, but it didn't work.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Here I am still struggling with it. You know, they did their best. My aunt, I remember my aunt going to far length to try to get me help. I mean, they all did their best, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I never felt resentful at my parents because of that or anything like that, you know. But it did cause a lot of trauma in school.
Sure.
That it caused me a lot of fights in school because I was, you guys know me, I'm not one to take you know any BS from anybody, right? So I'm not gonna sit in class and get made fun of or any of that, you know, in a fight. What happened is that started.
Right.
You know, that started the I'm not the same as you and you're not gonna mess with me.
Right.
You know, so I have to be.
They mess around and they found out.
No, it starts creating callus.
It
starts creating callus, right?
For sure.
Friction is going to create callus.
Yeah.
You know, so I started getting that callus started building, and then every little thing was a problem.
Right.
Gotcha.
It was a fight. It was suspension, and then you know I want to fit in. So what do? Whatever I need to do to fit in, because I want to be with the cool kids. I want to be a part of, not separated from.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. And I think as men, that's one of the big issues, right? We all want to be a part of something. We all want to belong. We all want to feel a part of it.
Yep.
But when we don't, we start doing stuff that we don't necessarily want to or need to, just to feel like we're a part of something.
Yep.
Right. Or to be closer to the cool group, or to the kid that looks like he has it all together. Right. Especially when we're young. And so obviously that spiraled into me, you know, starting to party and starting to, you know, so quote unquote, again, just have fun and start, you know, using different type of drugs, start smoking weed, start, you know, drinking alcohol. And then I will tell you this, my family is a party family, right?
Sure.
So we grew up, you know, parties, drinking, alcohol, all of that was normal around my house, you know? Not that because of that I'm an alcoholic, right? Or anything like that, but that's the story, right? That's part of the testimony.
Right,
so
that's where it started, right?
And I think a lot of Latins come from that type of background, right? Where
for sure.
Our families is like,
and we promote underage drinking in Latin families.
Right. It's normal. Oh, this is cute. Let's give them a little zip of the beer, you know. And again, not that turned me into the next part of my story, but
it's definitely part of a normal day, like a part of the week, right? Like we're gonna get together, we do Christmas, whatever it is. There's a bit of drinking that happens, or a little bit of party and music and all that. You know, it's a bit of normalcy.
And sometimes every other day.
Sure.
You know? Sometimes it starts becoming just like I went down the you know, I went off the deep end. My family went off the deep end, right? And you know, it caused divorce in my family.
Sure.
You know, my parents got separated. And that was like where not that I blame my parents separating for what I did, but it started shifting things in my life where decisions were getting, you know, worse and worse and worse. So it was kind of like that place where it's like, well, this is how life is, you know, like, you know, just got to go with whatever. And just I started getting that mentality of like, you know, no one's looking out for you. You got to do you got to, you know, you start going into that machismo, right? Like, I got to figure this out. It's on me now. Yep. Right. And F everybody. Right. Sorry for the.
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
But I started having that mentality, right? Like just being like, you know, I don't care about anybody or anyone, you know, like, look at this, like, this is how life is. Like, your parents love each other. They're not together anymore. You know, your world starts crumbling in. Right. And then, so, you know, long story, like the dysfunctions started kind of like turning.
Sure.
Right. The dysfunction started turning in my house, and things just started getting a little weird. We started moving around more, and and I was always a hustler. I always found a way to make some money. I got blessed with the ability to cut hair. I love art and I love all of that. And, I started cutting hair. My mom, kind of showed me how to do some haircuts. I started cutting hair. That'll be a whole long story that I don't think is worth saying right now. But anyway, I started cutting hair and I got blessed with that. And I, started cutting hair little by little. I had my first opportunity to work at a barbershop. At 16, 17 years old, I started working in the barbershop. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My first job at a barbershop was at 16, 17.
Before child labor laws.
Before, exactly. Well, before that, I was working at a pet shop, which is a hilarious story. One day I went to the pet shop high and we're going to clean the fish tanks. And they had me like bring the ladder out. Yeah. And I hit the fire extinguisher. Oh, and it fell and it blew up and I killed all the animals in the yeah. Wow. That was like my last week working. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So wow. That was my first job. And don't get high and work at a
pet shop.
That's some important advice right there. So, listen to that.
There's a PetSmart worker out there that's getting high right now. He's gonna hear.
Don't do it.
It was bad. And I started dabbling in doing whatever I felt like it, whenever I felt like it, however I felt like it, without caring for the consequences of me or others. I just started living a life that I started saying, I got to figure it out. Yeah. I got to find my own way, my way, and however I want it, because I felt like life was not treating me fair. Yeah. I'm dyslexic. My parents are, I started.
You always felt like you got the short end of the stick.
Right. I started finding a way to, again, blame anything and everything for why I was justifying the way I was behaving and acting, right? Because I deserve, if you knew my life, how horrible it is, right? You would do this too, like, come on, like, like you would live like this if you had my life, Right. Mm-hmm. But that's why I like saying that it wasn't really that bad. Right. Yeah. I just found a way to make it bad. Yeah. Right. Through through just being, and long story short, I mean, that kept going. Me and Masi met through this process around, a little shy of that, and that's an amazing story. Yeah. Which again, it's a beautiful part of my testimony. Obviously, me and Masi met. We met roller skating, and we started our journey together. We were like 17 years old, right before I got that barbershop job, and we started dating, and we just grew together. We've grown up together, right? We've had a 20. I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, but 24 years, 25 years of marriage.
Don't get mad at him, Masi.
First of all, shout out Masi.
Shout out Masi. Yeah.
She's been amazing, obviously, through my journey. And I moved to, I started partying a lot. We started partying, and let's get to the good stuff. Yeah. So I started partying a lot, and I started partying and drinking heavy. We started like looking for clubs, looking for more drugs, looking for more, and then just started going straight down the rabbit hole, straight down into the, space, nocturnal, all the beach, party, all day, all night, every day. Mm-hmm. Moved to the beach, just kept going deeper and deeper into the lifestyle. Right. I think the best word for it is lifestyle, I found my place in the lifestyle, is drugs, sex and rock and roll. Yeah. It's like all the time, every time. That's everything I worked, everything I would do. I call it falling uphill, because everything in my life was good. I got a barbershop. I bought a house. Wow.
I've never heard that before. Falling uphill.
Yeah. So I was falling uphill for a long time, right? Because everything was horrible, but I was doing great. Yeah. Because I was self-sufficient, doing it on my own will, making it happen, finding a way.
Which, and I'm sorry, I think that's a good way to see how like the devil can bless you too.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, I was. Devil had me thinking that I had control. Good. Yeah. You're doing great, bro. Look, I'm blessing you. Right. You're blessed. Look at this, look what you're achieving. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, man, we can go down rabbit holes. Maybe God was trying to bless me, but I wasn't allowing it. Either, right.
Yeah. Right.
Because
you just kept doing it your way, like you said.
Because Masi's parents, were pastors. They were praying for us.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
Yeah. Masi's parents are Christian, and they're big believers, and I'm sure they were praying for us. Sure. They were going Alpha and Omega. I mean, there's so many holes in my story. Masi, when we met, she took me my first date to Alpha and Omega.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
That's the last church I went to before I went to Brave.
So you know, so I started there, but it went over my head.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. So when are we getting out of here?
Right.
You know, but
Wow.
and yeah, man. So from there, honestly, just had everything right. Let's partied and got started having episodes of blacking out. And then never enough, like everybody would stop drinking and I would keep drinking. So the next morning, Masi would get upset. Why? You had so much fun. Why are you drinking like that? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Once I started drinking, I couldn't stop drinking. Once I started using, I couldn't stop using. I had to finish everything we had, until I did not fall out.
Yeah.
I was not stopping.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I had to, the only way to stop me was falling out.
Right. Like
so
blacking out.
Masi would be scared, obviously. Every time I drank,
Yeah.
she would be super scared. Like, I know where this is going to end,
Right.
And then I would promise her all the time, okay, tonight's going to be different. I promise. Sign contracts, whatever, everything. I make all type of promises. Right. And then it wouldn't be different.
Right.
It would be exactly the same.
Yeah.
It would be over and over, time and time again. And, that I lost my house. I'm going to go straight to the, I did that. I dragged that out for, the next, I don't know, 5-6 years from when that happened,
Oh, wow.
or more maybe. I don't know. I mean, I had a life of drinking and drugging from 15, 16, right? All the way to 35.
Wow.
So whatever that is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe younger than that because I started smoking and all of that earlier than that. So, I had pretty big chunk of my life was with drugs and alcohol. And so the bad part, is like I lose everything. I lose my barbershop. I basically just not only lose it, but I sold the barbershop, but for peanuts, a barbershop that was perfectly good.
Right.
We fell into bad payments of the house when we were making money. It was like a good idea to get our money and go traveling and drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
With the little money we had instead of paying the mortgage, for example.
Right.
And so then we moved, we lost all of that, moved to Homestead, and I was already like, this was when things were like bad, like bad time. And
would you say that was like when you hit your rock bottom?
Probably not. I was probably already at rock bottom.
Gotcha.
But I was just dragging along the bottom. I was dragging along the bottom for some years, and so get into, move to Homestead, and that's, I think where
that's when you knew it was rock bottom, when you moved to Homestead.
Hey, you should know. You should.
Yeah, I love Homestead.
Shout out Homestead.
I don't remember the details of all this part of the story, but because it was, this is when things were a blur. But moved over there, trying to, kind of collateral damage, pick up the pieces here and there. Me and Masi were broke. She was broken. She was, she didn't know what to do with me anymore. She was frustrated. She was everything. So I believe we moved back into her parents' house. I was, imagine, like, God forbid they hear this or not, but I was sad. I was doing coke in their house in the bathroom while trying to sleep in the living room, and I couldn't sleep for days. And then I would drink their cooking wine and just savage,
Wow.
Just sad stuff, like just because I couldn't stop. I could not stop.
Yeah.
So I'm living in my in-laws' house, basically sleeping in their living room there. My wife sleeping in another room. Lexi was already born. And I couldn't stop. I could not stop drinking.
Yeah.
Drugging, And I convinced my wife, like, we need to get out of here because I can't live like that in there, Like, I was just unstoppable. I was a monster, I was like, this is not going to be good. Like, I just, And her dad would wake up every morning and read the Bible out loud. And I was just like, listen, this is not working out for me.
Right, yeah.
I don't even know what he was saying, but I didn't want to hear that. And I was, pacing around my in-laws' house, all hours of the night.
Yeah.
On cocaine and just horrible. And then we rented a house nearby. We scrambled up some money and we rented a house and it was like deeper into the downhill. It was like, I was telling you, I was falling uphill Now, all of this, I was falling downhill fast. And, you know, slowly, I had one of the craziest episodes there. And like, I would black out constantly and destroy the house. That was like a given. Or fight people. I ended up in jail many times for either selling or fighting at the clubs. One of the moments where I know God started, you know, to start shifting into where God, you know, started, not that he wasn't the whole time, because he was saving my life every single time.
Absolutely.
Because I'm telling you guys, I was driving drunk, doing just doing everything that a normal person would do, drunk and high on something.
Yeah.
And I got to that point where at that house one day, after God knows what type of partying we were doing, I just kept going. I was kept going. I was probably mad at Masi for, you know, telling me to stop the night before, and that would just set me off, you know, and I just went off and started drinking, drugging all day long, and you know, basically destroyed every room in the house. This crazy stuff. Like I would drive with Lexi sitting on my lap to buy cocaine and ecstasy on the stuff, with her sitting on my lap like that, driving like a maniac, you know, like it's just crazy stuff. And, you know, and drive back and lock myself up in the house, you know. And that day I dropped her off at school. I remember it was a Monday. I dropped her off at school. Obviously, you know, with black glasses on, the teacher wouldn't see me. I always felt like I would walk into school and the teacher would just look at me like, you're such a piece of work, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe she wasn't, but in my head.
Right. Yeah. It's like guilty conscience, like that shame, shame.
And I would look at myself in the mirror and just be like, man, you're what's, you know, like I wanted to stop so bad. Yeah. But I couldn't find the way. Yeah. And, man, I destroyed the house. I threw everything everywhere. And I must throw ketchup and stuff all over the floor. So at one of those, I slipped and fell. There was glass everywhere. I tore out of the glass. I'm talking about whatever, the worst thing you can imagine. It was that day. And I just destroyed every single wall, everything. And we were renting this house off this guy. It was, and kicked all the doors down, broke the shower, because I was taking a shower and I felt claustrophobic, so I broke the glass. I mean, talking about epic, you know, destruction. Yeah. And then Masi gets home from work and I'm on the floor laying, bleeding out of my face. You know, she thought I killed myself, you know, because I was already threatening that I was going to do that, right? Right. So she was like, he lost it for sure, you know. She always tells me, like, she would drive, we were living in the ghetto, right? In the hood. She would drive by and she would look at the bums and stuff and she would be like, she would recognize me in them. Wow. You know, she was like, this is my husband. My husband and this guy right here are no different. Yeah. Wow. You know? Oof. And yeah, so man, she found me on the floor and she went outside and she called the cops, I believe, or she called my friend, and my friend is undercover. And he said, look, he called on the radio, I don't want no one to go in there. Don't touch him. Don't go in. So, you know, obviously cops pulled in right away, a bunch of cops. And I just remember kind of right at the corner of my eye, my buddy coming in with his cap all low, just hovering over me and just going boom, boom, kicking me. He's like, yo, you all right? And I just looked at him, you know, just naked on the floor, bleeding everywhere. Glass is just destroyed, you know. And he got me out of there, took me to his house. Wow. If I'm saying the story right. And if this was that night, there could have been a different night. Sure. But took me to his house, I believe, and left me on his couch. And you know, I remember eating a bunch of potato chips, watching the Heat game, and shortly after that, leaving and going right back to it. Wow. You know, just like if it was nothing, like that didn't even phase me, you know. And during that time, I was kind of like walking across the street, like car would hit me, please, you know. Yeah. I was at that point where I'm just like, I'd rather be dead than alive, you know. And that's just the way I was living. Believe it or not, for some more time, you know, and you know, just scratching by, man, like just literally scraping by. Poor Masi, you know, there just trying to do her best. She, I don't want to say her part of the story, but, I've heard her mention that she was at her ending point, she was like, like she couldn't with me anymore. She has a daughter with me, and I believe that during this time, we've never divorced, we've never broken up, we've never nothing. But during this time, she wasn't able to live with me,
right?
Because she was just scared.
Sure,
scared for her life, scared for her daughter's life.
Yeah,
I was not living in any way to be around anybody, myself for that matter, And man, we said, you know what, we got to get out of Homestead. That's the problem. It's Homestead, And we moved to we moved to Westchester here, and my buddy rents me a crib. I don't remember how we got the money for that. Masi would go. Crazy stuff. Masi would go to the loan places and get money for our cars to be able to survive for a couple of days, so we can pay the thing. I would go cut hair 1 or 2 days a week, and just what vicious cycle of trying to make things happen in order to just scratch by the day, or the week or the hour, any little money that we can get. And I was living like homeless,
barely scraping by.
Yeah, I was, homeless and me were not, not too far off, right? And you'll hear a lot of guys with my story probably say the same thing, is like, why I'm not a homeless is because I have family and people that love me.
Yeah.
Wow. That's why I'm not a homeless. That's why I'm not in the street. That's why I'm not dead. Yeah. Because I have people that cared about me enough, that love me enough to not see me in that position, that would give us money, that would give us out of their pocket, out of their food, in order for me not to be there, for my wife not to be there, right? Because they knew that. I know that today, that because of them, I'm alive, obviously, and what God has done in my life, which I'll get to now. But in those moments when I didn't believe in God, when I didn't think God was a possibility, when I didn't have any type of hope, I didn't see God in the situation.
Right.
There was no. I was captured by the world. I was captured by the devil. I was in another space, in another place, and and then my last drink, to get to where, to the good part, right?
Yeah.
So my last drink, I had it there in this house, and and I remember, funny stuff. I started seeing it there. I told myself, okay, like, we're gonna really fix this, right? Like, we need to fix this, and we started trying to work on it. So we made deal that, she started. Again, I don't want to say her story, but she started doing some of the stuff that I was doing in order to, she's like, okay, I'll do it with you. Right. But only these days.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you got to promise me that you're not going to do it these days. Right. So then we had a deal, and it started working.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a crazy part. It started working. I'm like, oh, this is manageable.
Right. Yeah.
We started having fun again. Things started getting good. She was like, because I like doing drugs and being justified.
Right.
Sure.
I wanted it to be justified.
Right.
I didn't want to just do drugs and people be like down my throat, like, oh.
Right.
I wanted justification for like, oh, babe, of course you deserve it. You
had a long day at work.
Yeah. So I wanted justification. So finally, I had that again.
Right.
At one point in my life, I did, when I was, quote unquote normal, and we were still having fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But when the fun went away, finally we got back to that place where she was doing it again. She's like, okay, we can, and we started managing for a little while, a couple months, but obviously, I was already too far gone. So, maybe that, I don't know, Masi's great with the timing, but I don't know if it lasted a week or 2 months. In my head, it was, whatever. It definitely was short-lived. And, man, the scariest thing happened to me. I was drinking and drugging, and it wasn't working. It was not working. None of it. I drank like 2 or 3 bottles of tequila, probably. A bunch of every stuff that you can imagine. I was just taking it, and ecstasy, cocaine, everything just going down, and it was not working.
Yeah.
It was not hitting me. And that was the scariest moment of my life.
Wow.
When the stuff was not working, and I was like, oh man, now what? I've done double of what I normally do, and it's just not hitting.
Wow.
It's not hitting, you know. And I remember going to the bathroom and just looking at myself in the mirror, and what I saw was disgusting.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, bro, I can't no more. I can't no more. I said, I'm gonna kill myself. Today is the day, you know. I remember calling my therapist and telling him I didn't know who else to talk to, right? So I called my therapist, the therapist I had at the time, which I was lying to for years, by the way. I was telling him everything was great, you know, perfect. I'm living the perfect life. He's like, you're not a liar. You just don't say the truth. And which was the truth.
Right.
I never lied to him. I just never told him any of my problems.
Yeah.
You know, I paid for a therapist. I never told him anything. Everything was great. And then I just called him that day, and I just, you know, again, Masi's probably remember the story better than me. I'm sure I'm butchering it, but you know, they called her, called him, and he just suggested, like, man, just come. Is there a way for you to get to my office? Imagine I drove to his office.
Wow.
After all of that, like nothing, like if nothing. I sat in his thing, and he couldn't believe that I was, you know, in the condition that I was. He's like, you know, you seem normal, like any, because I would go there sober.
Sure.
I would go there sober.
Right.
Like I was like, all right, I can't drink when I go see the therapist.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And he was like, you look like any other day. And I was like, it's not like any other day, you know. And told him what was going on and where I really was. And that's when he told me that. He's like, oh, you're not a liar, but whatever. And then he goes, look, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to call the ambulance. You're going to tell them everything you told me. And you're going to get Baker acted, you know. And I go, all right, that works. You know, if that's what I need to do, I'll do it. You know, if that's what's going to find it. Like, I was just done. I'm telling you, I was going to kill myself, you know. And for some reason, God put it in my heart. Obviously, I know now, you know, to make that call. This guy's not even a Christian. He's probably not even a believer, this guy, but God was using him, right?
Sure.
Right.
So
And God
was using people.
Yeah.
Probably using them all along, but God was like, all right, I need this guy for something.
Yeah.
And this is the moment. Like, he's either going to kill himself. I think he's learned this lesson, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
And he used that guy, and that guy, you know, got me Baker acted. But the funny part is, like, all the drugs and alcohol hit me as soon as the ambulance, they told me, oh, you're going to go to Westchester Hospital. And I go, no, I don't want to go to Westchester. I want to go to UM. Because I want to go where I want to go.
Right.
I want to go to UM. And he's like, bro, it's 5:00.
Right.
You know what it would be to drive
Yeah.
from here to UM.
To UM, yeah.
At this time, I'm like, we will never get there.
Right.
And you're not in any good conditions to be in the ambulance for that many hours.
Sure.
And I go, no, you're going to put on the lights and we're going to get there fast. And he's like, it doesn't work like that. I just can't do that. You
Sure.
know? Like, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you can. And, bro, that's it. I went black.
Wow.
And they had to obviously, you know, sedate me, tie me down. The whole way over there, I was just cursing the guy out. You know, I mean, poor guy, you know.
Yeah.
The day I see him, you know, I owe that guy an amends. But the whole way, just cursing him out. But I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
You know, and I got what I wanted, and they took me to UM. I remember blacking out, waking up, you know, got garnied up in one of those rooms, pads, one little window. And I was like, wow, what happened? You know?
Yeah.
How am I here?
You woke up there.
I woke up there, yeah. I woke up there. I had waken up in jails before. I had waken up in many places, but never had I ever waken
In a padded room.
In a padded room, yeah. So I was like, wow, you know, I have arrived. You know?
Wow.
I reached that place, you know, and I think you guys have heard me say part of the story before, but this was the moment, you know, and they you know, they saw I was calm enough. You know, they left me in there until whatever the drugs ran out. They had me take pills and get me sedated and all calm. Put me into the room. And that was a moment where I just, you know, I didn't know God. I didn't know of God. I didn't, nothing. I didn't know the power of God. I didn't think anything of God. But I've seen it in movies.
Sure.
I've heard that it works for people. You know, I knew that much. I've heard like stories of God, and obviously
Your father-in-law.
my father-in-law, and my wife, you know.
Yeah.
But I was not, I can tell you right now, I was not thinking about that.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of the movies.
Yeah.
Enough, you know. I was thinking more like, I've seen this in movies, you know. And I got next to that bed and I got on my knees and I said, God, I said this prayer. This was my foxhole prayer. I said, God, if you're real, I need your help right now. You know, and it's like, well, if you let me out of this hospital in this condition, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I meant it. And I think, you know, God knew I meant it.
Yeah.
Know? God knew that I was done. I was exhausted. You know, I had reached the point of no return. You know, I was like, I can't walk out of here. You know, I looked at my pants. They took my string. Had no shoelaces. The furniture can't carry it. You know, I tried.
Yeah.
You know, I said, I looked at the window. I go, I'm going to throw this thing through that window and I'm going to jump out of this place.
Wow.
Head first into the thing, you know? Like I was thinking about doing it. You know? And that's what drove me to get on my knees and pray, because I was like, all right, I'm out of options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm out of options here, so I got to find what's my next option. And God left me nothing else.
Yeah.
He said, it's me. Your last option is me. You know, and I did that prayer, man, and I hadn't taken a shower for days. I hadn't shaven. I hadn't done anything. I was a mess. And man, the next day, hindsight, looking back to the story now, I can tell you guys that I woke up with hope, right?
Wow.
Yeah. First glimpse of hope in my life. I took a shower. I felt something different inside of me, right? I felt a sense that I felt something that I looking back now, I know what it is, but at that moment, I didn't know how to explain it, but something happened, right? Something shifted. I took a shower, I shaved, you know, and then, you know, like things started like just happening.
Yeah.
From that moment on, right?
Sure.
Things started shifting. The doctors, you know, were like, you know, like asking different questions, like, you know, like, what have you been doing? Like, and what, you know, and, you know, and I was like, you know, eventually I told one of the doctors that I had prayed. And, you know, a lot of the guys that work there, believe it or not, they're believers, or they've been through the story themselves.
Yeah.
That's why they want to work there, because they want to help other guys. Right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So they get those jobs to help people that were, you know, like they were.
Right.
And so you have a lot of people that were, you know, drug addiction, abuse and stuff. And you know, the guy, basically after that, you know, shortly after that, I got, you know, based on a promise that I was going to go to recovery and join AA, that I would be let out.
Yeah.
You know, so I said, yeah, I'm willing. And that's something that I had never said before. You know, I'm willing to do it. I felt like, you know, like I was willing to get the help, you know, and part of the story that I forgot was one of the last times that I was, you know, drinking and stuff like that. Masi had called an AA room looking for help for me, you know, because obviously, you know, Masi during the whole process, she was doing everything possible to find me help and get me help. And she was fighting for me, but I was unhelpable.
Yeah.
And she was doing her very best with everything that she could to find me the help that I needed. And she called an AA room, and you know, and this one guy, my friend Albert, you know, he pulled up to the barbershop, you know, and I didn't know this guy from, well, remember we saw him at the Olive Garden.
Yep.
Watch out, we can't talk about him. He'll pop up here. You know, and you know, he just came. I was crossing the street, and I was gonna go get sangria in a plastic cup across the street, because that's the way I would maintain at the barbershop with sangria. And he just came to me and he says, I know how you feel. There's a place for you.
Wow. And
I was like, all right, you know. Didn't know what that meant. I didn't know nothing at the time. I was just like, I don't know what this crazy guy is all about. I put his number in my pocket, and then I got out of all that process, went through rehab, you know, months of rehab, and therapy. Man, I'm a strong believer in therapy.
Yeah.
You know, like I recommend
it's good
to everybody and anybody. I didn't know that I needed it. You know, although I went through a lot of therapists for dyslexia, for you know, trying to help with that, but you know, never did I talk anything past that. You know, so, and I think as adults, it's so important. You know, like even if you don't have a problem, get a therapist. You know, like
if you don't, even if you think you don't have a problem, you probably need a therapist.
Yeah, just get a therapist. Go talk to somebody. You know, because it's just helpful, man. Just to organize your thoughts and head sometimes, and yeah, man. So from there, you know, I started. I went. The fun part was that I went back to my first AA room. I walked through the door, and there's Albert making coffee.
Wow!
Wow! Like, oh my God! So just bawling
like an angel.
Yeah, already an angel, just looking out for you.
Yeah,
just an angel, man.
I love Albert, man, and I, you know, give Albert a big hug, and you know, he helps, gives me coffee, sits me there, and you know, man, and I heard my first AA message, you know, and I was like, wow, you know, I can't believe this exists.
Yeah,
wow,
I can't believe these people are just like me,
right?
Yeah,
you know, like this is a room full of people that understand me, know me, and speak my language.
Sure.
And they're just as crazy as me, and they have a purpose. You know, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that there was a group of maniacs just like me that were working on their problem together.
Wow.
You know, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I remember getting so excited about it, you know, and I was like, man, and God is so good, you know, like I got surrounded. I mean, that's why I'm so passionate now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that you guys hear me, you know, like God is, I've been, you know, I have a lot of stuff inside, but God has been starting to use a lot more of it lately.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know, I think my passion will start coming out more and more because it's all in there. Because I know, you know, I know it's a slingshot effect, right? I know how far I got stretched back.
Right.
You know, I know how much I have to go forward now, right? Because I got pulled into the deep abyss to get where I am today, you know? I went to the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom and then tried to dig from there a little more, you know? And that fight coming out and what God has done through my life and through my story now, you know, it's just, it's mind-blowing, right? So I started going to AA. I met my sponsor there, you know, my sponsor Fred, and he gave me my first prayer. He gave me my first prayer, and he wrote on a little paper. He just asked me, "Hey, you ready? You seriously ready to get sober?" You know, I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." And he wrote on a paper, "Help me stay sober for today. God, help me stay sober for today. That will be done, not mine." And he gave me the paper, and he said, "Tomorrow when you wake up, put this under your bed tonight. Tomorrow when you wake up, you're gonna be on your knees.
Right.
Say this prayer, and just do that every day.
Right.
One day at a time for the rest of your life, and you will see amazing things happen."
Wow.
And I was like, "This guy's nuts. This guy's absolutely nuts. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
That's definitely not gonna work for me, you know." But I was desperate.
Yeah.
You know, my story is about desperation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was desperate. I live like that sometimes today because I know that importance of where I come from, where the story that I'm telling you, the parts that I could tell you on this, because, you know, I'm giving you guys the more PG version, right? Because it's deep and ugly, right? And, you know, so I'm desperate, man, to live today. I'm hungry to live. I'm you know, I have a sense of like, hey, like I know where I've been and I've come from, right? And I started doing that prayer, and man, God started opening my eyes.
Wow.
Started, you know, taking off that veil.
Wow.
You know, started letting me see into His kingdom, right?
Yeah.
I started seeing God's kingdom right before my eyes, right? And He starts speaking to me every day. He starts revealing Himself to me every day. He starts having a relationship with me. Well, I mean, let me reframe that. I start, because He was always there, right?
Yeah.
I was the one that was turned away.
Right? Yeah.
He was always begging me probably to turn towards Him, but I was like, I'm not going that way, right? And, you know, finally I submitted to God. Finally I submitted to God, right? And I'm sure God was so happy, right? He was like, man, yes.
Right.
Yes. Of course you're forgiven, son. Of course, you know, the kingdom is yours. All your wishes, everything you've ever wanted is right here, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever, you've done that wrong, and you've done that wrong, and you've did this wrong, and you continue to do this wrong, and you continue to do that wrong, but the answer is yes and amen.
Yeah.
Whatever you want it,
sure,
I will provide for you, right? And man, what a story of redemption after that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
God has you want to say something?
No, go.
Yeah. So God has like, man, just been, it's been a process. It's been a tough, long, you know, just the type of process that I need.
Yeah.
It's been grueling. It's been tough. It's been hard. It's been hard on me and my wife. I always like sharing this because people don't really see it like that. But, you know, me and my wife are always telling people, like, we have a new relationship, right? And we've had to work on a new relationship. We've had to build a new marriage. We've had to build a new relationship. We've had to build a new home. We've had to build a new business. We've had to start a whole new life.
Right.
Yeah.
Two different people now.
Dead.
Yeah.
Completely.
The past is dead. Like,
Right.
God.
You guys divorced yourself from those versions of yourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
We did, and then we were made new.
Yeah.
Right. In God's image now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And but it takes work, and I
Sure.
think Pastor Matt was preaching on it. This, the labor.
Right.
Yeah.
There's labor.
Yeah.
There's labor to be done, and there's, and it's like me and Matthew were watching like a documentary on Moses yesterday, and then I was just like, wow, God, when you reveal things, you just reveal things, and it's like, we're in the wilderness, we're traveling through the desert, we're heading towards the blessing, right?
Yeah.
But it's tough.
Right.
It's not an easy route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still in lack. You're still in question. You're still in. There's so much still at stake. Even though God said yes,
Right.
I got you.
Yeah.
And He's opening the seas for me.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm still like hard-headed, and I'm still stubborn in some areas. And God,
Yeah.
You even want to go back to slavery.
Right. I even want to go back to slavery in
Right.
my sickness sometimes.
Right.
And I was telling Masi, this is crazy because this is what we do.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Listen,
This is
the
who we are.
Bible is alive today, and
Right.
that's what people I think fail to realize, that all the stuff that we go through today, it's in the Bible.
It's
Yeah.
in the
It's a
Bible.
mirror.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I didn't think that was,
Yeah.
the truth, right? I was like, nah, these people are lying. And so it's so now it's beautiful, right? Now it's I mean, granted, I was saying that because I
Sure.
was saying that
Yeah.
it's beautiful, but it still takes work. It still
yeah,
takes
100%.
effort. It's still a daily.
Every day's a battle.
From staying, away from alcohol.
Yeah.
And I love telling, me and Chris have talked about this a lot, and I think this is an important thing to say for people to understand, because, I don't have to, like, I don't have to work on being sober. Like, it's not a burden for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not a burden for me because God lifted the obsession. Right?
So important.
God lifted that. Like, so I don't have to, I don't go to Publix and walk by a different aisle. That's not the liquor aisle.
Yeah.
If I want ice cream or whatever, that's at the back of the aisle there. If I need to go grab bacon that's next to the beer, I'm not like scared.
Right.
Because God removed that obsession.
Yeah.
He performed a miracle in my life.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not like a little light thing. He performed a miracle in my life, and He continues to do that in all the areas of my life.
Yeah.
So when I talk to men, I encourage that. I push that on them. I say, what we need is for God to remove the obsessions, to remove whatever it is.
That's good.
I don't want to see you walking the rest of your life thinking that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be changed.
Yeah.
Good.
Right? We can't stay the same if we believe that God is performing these miracles, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't be scared to live.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
good.
Yeah.
because-
You'd have to be locked away in your
Yeah.
house.
You're going to go out with friends one day and they might have a drink or two, and if you're stuck in that, then you're always going to be with that. And
Right. And I say that for everything.
Yeah. No.
Life, right?
Yeah,
It's like
for sure.
we're saying alcohol just to use
Right.
it.
As the
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
term,
but it's
but it could be
everything.
anything. Yeah.
Anything. Mhm.
So,
Yep. Hey, it's crazy to hear your story, because as most of us, we know Javi is the loving dad, to your two beautiful kids, and
Thank you.
just a loving husband, and a man of men, like a true man, and it's crazy because it sounded so chaotic, right? Just how the story went. But when I'm around Javi, it's kind of peaceful to be around you. You have this peaceful
And safe
being, right? Yeah, and you're the one, and it's sad to hear that so many people how to take care of you because you take care of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you're the one that, like, if Javi's got a coffee maker on him, he's always taking care of the group.
Yeah.
I always think about like the kids on special events. I'm like, oh, I got to get the kids food, and they're like, don't worry, Javi, already got pizza for the kids.
Right, yeah.
And I was crying the whole time because I just thought it was beautiful that none of us knew that, Well, we know a little bit about your story, but that you were in your in-laws' house, and just it didn't feel good for you, I don't know if it was the environment or just you felt guilty,
Yeah.
but to know that you're on the board of our church,
Right.
A leader in our church, and where God has brought you from. Nobody ever has to know any of that, but it's an honor that you would tell people that. But man, it's just amazing how far God has taken you through this and how God has really been on your life. I'm so glad that he's put things in place, because my life would be different if you weren't around. I love you as a friend, as, a brother and all that. And it's just crazy because you see where you're at now and how far you've come, and it's beautiful. It's a testimony to a lot of things, people being present, people praying for you. And that's a testament to other people just to remember to, pray up, a prayer isn't the least you can do. It's the most you can do,
Amen.
Being involved, I mean, your wife is amazing, the work that she put in, so it's just crazy, man. Because we don't get to see that side, and thank God we don't, right? But you just bring a sense of peace to people, and you're not chaotic at all, which is crazy to hear. That's how you were. So, I did want to ask you this question though, because of all those things, right, and all the stuff you dealt with in the past. And I know we've talked about it a little bit because you're a big component of AA and told me how it's not just for alcoholics and drug addicts. There's a lot of things that you can use the program for. How did you deal with, forgiving others and forgiving yourself in that season or as you've been going on? Because I know you talked about, hey, that might be something I have to talk to somebody else about one day. So,
yeah, so we've been, again, not to get, I don't want to, drag out the whole process of what, what AA has done in my life, but I mean, it's done miracles, but a big part of it is we have, we do amends. We make amends to people at some point, and I say that, but before I say that, I got to say that, if anybody that's hearing this, it's a process to get to make amends to people.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just wake up one day, get saved on Monday, and on Tuesday be going to every single person in your family because you're saved now,
Yeah.
That's it. You're, yes, you're a new person in Christ, but when you become a new person in Christ, like I was saying, the onion needs to be peeled.
Sure.
Sanctification needs to happen.
Yeah.
So it can't be like I raised my hand on church on Sunday and on Monday I'm apologizing to every single person in my family, right? So it's just not like that.
Yeah.
It's a process
Yeah.
where you start living the right way. In whatever it may be,
Sure.
From the little to the big. If I'm gonna make an apology to you, before I make that apology, I gotta be living the right way, living out that apology the right way,
Right.
So then my apology means something, right, and continue to do that from that moment on out. So it's a huge part of my life, right, and finding forgiveness for myself, for the wrongs and rights that people did and didn't do to me, and stuff that I made up that they did, and stuff that I did to myself, obviously, and people around me. But I mean, like I said, like God has shown me the way, right?
Yeah.
He's shown me the way, and I've learned from wise men, and I think that's why it's so important to surround ourselves with each other. Right? To be in each other's lives, to be able to talk to each other and be open with each other and tell each other's truth, so that we can learn from each other's, like, man, I try to be an open book with you guys, right? So you guys can know the truth and the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how I went through and how I fixed it and what I've done, and yeah. So I mean, I've learned how to forgive myself because God has taught me how to do it, right? God has given me the wisdom, the knowledge, the ability, right, to forgive myself, forgive others. He's given me that, and like you were saying, Joe, like the peace that you may feel around me today, right? And like, you have that chaos for such a long time, the storm, right? And then you have the peace on the other side, right? And then, like, it's like I'm in all of it,
right?
Like just like you're in all of it, right? I am as well, right?
Sure.
You're like, wow, like man, I'm just like, wow, God, I'm so grateful, right? Because the sense of peace that I'm feeling, right? Because I didn't know what that was, right?
Yeah.
Such a long time. I didn't think that was possible. I didn't think peace was possible. I was so used to chaos.
Yeah.
Right? That being peaceful and bringing peace to other people was not even a possibility, right? And how beautiful that like God does that, right? God restores peace in your heart. God restores peace in your mind, so much so that it permeates through you to others, right? And I'm at disbelief that God can perform those miracles, right?
Amen.
You know,
Absolutely.
I'm in awe. Like, God, wow, man, like this is what your mercy and your power could do, right? Like, just, you know, change me in a way that I could never have imagined, right? So yeah, that's the answer to that.
Yeah. Good. So good. It's just the crazy part is what I've seen in Javi's life is every time. So if you don't know, like Javi and I kind of got together through our discipleship program we had. And that's kind of where we really connected. And I really wanted to get him involved. I saw something in Javi. I'm like, man, this guy's got it together. It's crazy to hear his story because I was like, at the time, I'm like, man, Javi's got it together. He's a family man. You know, he seems like he's got his head on right, you know. And we really connected over the idea of discipleship, right? And just the importance behind it, you know, and just, you know, doing life with people. And, you know, it's so important, as I know that you're part of connecting the church, you know, together now and all that. So, and this kind of has to go with AA too, you know, how do you deal with, you know, discipleship in people that, you know, you want to do life with, you want to build with, but kind of on the outskirts, not really sure about it. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you, I know it's a big thing, like, you know, discipleship is something you want, right? I know you've mentioned it before, like, you know, AA, like they have to want it, right? So, where's that line of, do I pull them out? Do I fight with them? You know, do I let them? Or
yeah, I mean, like I was saying, like the difference between a person that's struggling with, that gets, you know, brought out of a life of addiction is usually going to be a little bit more desperate,
right,
to find community. You know, they're going to be, you know, it's, you know, when you've come from that, or when you get out of any bad situation, right, you're gonna have a little more hunger and be a little more flexible into the idea of other being discipled by other people, and wanting community. Because if I tell you, you know, it either you do this or you go back to that,
right?
You know, you go back, you know, either you do this or you go back to jail. You know, what do you choose?
Yeah.
I'm going to choose this, right? I want to be free.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, so God knows me.
Yeah.
That good, right? That intricate, that he knows that that's what I needed. I needed black and white, like
Right.
freedom or death. What do you want?
Yeah.
You know, and if you want freedom, here's a simple toolkit that you could use to live your life.
Yeah.
Right? And I started following them.
Right.
That's what was suggested to me by other men.
Sure.
Hey, call other men, create community amongst yourselves. You know, pray daily, do your bed, like these little simple things, right?
Yeah.
That has shaped my life.
Yeah.
And
It's so important because you talk to me as small things. Like you even give me a little pin. I think it says 1 day at a time.
Right.
Yep. And it's just one little thing. It's you even started with the prayer, right? You're like, I could pray this. I couldn't pray this long prayer, but I can pray this one little thing, and one little thing. And making the bed, it might sound silly, but it's one little thing I can do.
One thing I'm doing right.
Right. Yep.
One thing I'm doing right.
So
you know?
true. It's one thing I'm not
The
doing
little
today.
disciplines.
So.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
the little
the little wins, right?
Yeah.
The little wins. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I think the question is like, yeah, if a person like that not have maybe lived my life, and you know, they're just okay, but they still want to get better, right?
Yeah.
There's little victories that we could do, little things, because not everybody has my story of going down those paths and doing all of that, right? There's just average people that want to get better and get closer to Christ. But I think to what you're saying is creating community, right, around yourself, making uncomfortable. I always talk about that with you guys. You know, it's like sometimes it's uncomfortable for me, right, to make calls. You know, you guys are my brothers. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to call you guys, right?
Yeah.
It costs. It's trouble. So like, but I think that's right. That's the attack of the enemy. Like, we're brothers, but we can't call each other, right?
Yeah.
Because
right.
There's something. My head starts spinning, right?
Yeah.
And it gets uncomfortable. So just forcing myself out of that comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Saying, you know what, like, no, like I need to do this because again, for me, I look at it like my life depends on it, right?
Yeah.
My freedom depends on it because God has freely given me, but He's asked me to do these things.
Yeah.
You know, He's asked me to take these steps, right? And I'm taking them. I'm taking them to the best of my ability on a day-to-day basis, right? I try to pray, you know, often. I try to do my bed every day. I try to be, you know, an example to my friends. I try to stay in constant communication with my friends. And you know, of course, there's it goes into now. I also try to read spiritual material. Right? I try to read the Bible. I try to read a daily reflect. I try to do that's what I try to do every day. You know, to the best of my abilities, and you know, and I mean, I've been sharing this a lot lately, but it's so important. Just telling God, I need you today, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like if I call you, right, and I ask you, hey, you want to go work out with me, right? And we never go work out, you're going to be like, oh, Javi wants to work out with me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm inviting you into my life, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And if I call you the next day, you're like, oh, Javi really
wants to work out.
with
Yeah.
me, right? And I call you the next day, you're going to start feeling like Javi wants to have a relationship with me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the same way I look at Jesus,
That's good.
right?
Yeah.
I need to call on Jesus every day because I need Jesus to know that I want to have a relationship with Him.
Yeah.
So I constantly remind. I know He doesn't need to be reminded,
Right.
but I'm the one that needs to be reminded, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, Jesus, I want a relationship with you.
Yeah.
Be in my life, please, every day. Come, you know, I'm turning towards you.
Yeah.
Asking you, inviting you into my life daily.
Yeah.
good.
You know, and that we do that as friends too, right? That's discipleship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? That's the example. Jesus is the example,
Yep.
right? And He's telling us we need to do that amongst ourselves. What He's doing with us, we're doing.
Yeah.
He's there. Obviously, He's available. The Holy Spirit is available every single day.
Yeah.
Right.
But we need to ask, right? So that we build the relationship and that relationship gets built. And I try to do that with my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing that I've got taught to do. You guys have been my example. A lot of, you guys, we've been doing this together, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are an amazing example of what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
You guys have been showing me. A lot of you, Joel obviously been instrumental in my life and guiding me and showing me and discipling me and just an example. You guys are an example to me of what godly men do, right? We show up for people's lives. We encourage people. We uplift people, right? And yeah.